So, hi, Jeff VanderMeer. Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV.
Thanks so much for having me.
What is it like being back in the UK? Is this your first visit for a little while?
Yeah, since the original Annihilation tour, actually. So I'm really looking forward to kind of revisiting old haunts and favorite bookstores.
And this is you're here for Absolution, your fourth book in your trilogy. How did this come to be?
Yeah, I like to think of it as a trilogy with a doppelganger attached. And it came to be because I still had questions that I wanted answered. Not all the answers, because it's not that kind of series, but yeah, I kind of had a vision for the book last July. Suddenly it all came to me in the three parts, this kind of cosmic mystery set before the other books, but also sneakily a sequel. And I just wrote continuously in kind of like a altered state for 6 months. It was an incredible writing experience and fun, and I think the readers will have fun with it too.
And after over a decade, how was it to revisit Area X?
Well, it was actually oddly comforting because the readers have been so generous, and you know, it's notorious for being a story where there are kind of unanswered questions to some degree, because it is about the unknowability of the universe to some degree, but readers have filled that in with their own imaginations in a really playful and unusual way. And so writing this book, I just kind of fell into this comfortable space of trusting the readers to the point where I was actually even posting excerpts on social media while I was writing the rough drafts. And people were just so kind in response to that. So I really loved writing it.
What I found quite interesting about Absolution is the kind of feeling of hope. So how important was that to kind of have this in this prequel / companion /
Yeah, no, I think in following these threads of further mysteries in the books and further reveals about Central and also about Area X, it was really important to have kind of like balance. Like, I think humor is really important. It's a really useful way to kind of interrogate serious subjects sometimes. You know, humor is a serious thing, and so that's one reason I think this book is entertaining, as well as like grappling with these questions. And I think also what I do deal with here is like how humans might adapt to Area X, which is kind of a surrogate for how humans might adapt to climate crisis. And so I do think there is a little bit of a hopeful note, also in the fact that the original series is really about characters who are very alienated and separated from one another because of the situation they're in trying to investigate Area X. And here I think the character dynamics are a little warmer. You have this central relationship, this friendship between a younger agent and an older agent from Central, investigating like 18 months before the border comes down, what's going on the Forgotten Coast. And I think that bond is a very strong and interesting part of the novel.
I think last time we spoke, you talked a bit about your writing process and saying how you write longhand. Is that still the case?
I do. I write longhand, and I'll tell you how I inhabit scenes, and I assume it's this way for all writers, but I'm literally like living the scene as I write it, to the point where if I haven't decided exactly everything that happens in the scene, I'm shocked or surprised by it. And longhand somehow allows me to do that better. And I keep writing it in longhand, typing it up, marking it up, going back to longhand until I'm satisfied with the texture, the tone, that I've got like the character right. And then at some point I might switch over to the computer entirely. But there's a lot of satisfaction and pleasure in the longhand process for me. And it gets me deeper into kind of the fictive dream. So it's almost like I'm allowed to view my novel at first like a reader does, at least in the rough draft, which is very satisfying.
And how do you think your background, upbringing, and where you live has influenced your work?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the dense biodiversity of North Florida is very similar to Fiji, where I grew up, because my parents were in the Peace Corps. And so I've always been surrounded by a kind of wealth of life. It's sometimes overwhelming, but it's a very positive thing. It's something that is a little unique to show in fiction, and it imbues the landscapes with a kind of energy that I don't think they would have otherwise. This novel, too, has a lot of things that Floridians will recognize, and I think the authenticity of place. They're actual real places. Like in the first 3 books, there were amalgamations of real towns, but here they're real places that I visited. And I think that for those who are not from Florida, I think that also gives them a real view of that area, in addition to the uncanny things that are happening. And I think it makes it more authentic. So yeah, it definitely has an impact. Landscape always does. So.
Looking at the changes in fiction and kind of genres, and there's all these kind of offshoots of sci-fi and horror. So we have Sporra, we have Cli-Fi.
Right.
Just thinking about this, the bunny rabbits definitely push it into Sporra a bit more. Where would you say your books land?
Yeah, it's interesting. I started out in the horror genre, and some of my first stories were published in a UK magazine called Fear, which used to be a big deal. And so there's always been that element. It always kind of grounds the surrealness, the kind of like view of the beauty of the world as well as a counterbalance. And so I tend to be very squirrely and scurry away from like definitions and genre definitions, only because my books tend to be very different from book to book. So I don't really want to be pinned down. But it's true. You've kind of identified it. There's always this element of horror, and I think Absolution, the New York Times called it my weirdest novel. It's not really my weirdest novel. I think they misunderstood what I said. It's the novel with the greatest amount of the uncanny in it. So for readers of Area X who enjoyed those moments of unexpected unease, unexpected things happening in the uncanny realms, they're going to really enjoy this book.
So looking at the idea of adaptations, movie adaptations, is there kind of any other plans for the rest of the series or Absolution?
Yeah, to be candid, Paramount owns those rights, and if they were to sub-license them, that would be amazing. But I think they're in a little bit of turmoil right now, so it's possible in the future. I would love to see a TV series set across 30 years of the Southern Reach investigating Area X. I think that would be absolutely fascinating. So maybe one day.
And to finish off our interview today, so we always love to find out what the author's visiting, what they're currently reading, if they're anything they're particularly watching or looking forward to watch, and if they game, what are they playing?
Yeah, no, I am not reading a lot right now because I'm now into the 3rd week of a 6-week book tour across 3 countries, but I am reading Julia Armfield's Private Rights, which I think is an amazing book that has what you might call a slight speculative element. It also has amazing characters. It has kind of a gothic atmosphere to it, and the writing is just absolutely sublime. It's a beautiful book.
Great recommendation. Thank you, Jeff, for joining us today, and we will see you next time on FBTV.
Oh, thank you. It was a pleasure.
If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.